And first on the agenda is we have City Fields and Dustin. Okay.
Thank you for having me. City Fields is working with, trying to work on a grant application for the Robert Wood Johnson Community Connectors Grant, and would like to have the support and partnership of the City of Cleveland on this grant application. As you know, the highest form of support that a city council, municipal body can give is through a resolution. And we are seeking that today to fund this grant that would provide $130,000 and technical assistance to build neighborhood capacity for neighborhood planning and to enhance participation in the raised planning grant that was awarded to the city to develop a plan for the new east-west connector corridor between East Cleveland and downtown. This, the raised planning grant that has already been funded identified City Fields and College Hills Working Group as partners in the planning. And this grant would enhance the participation of the neighborhood that coincides with the railroad crossing elimination grant. So all of this stuff kind of working together makes this a win-win-win for the city of Cleveland, the residents of East Cleveland and College Hill, and City Fields is pursuing this grant application or opportunity. And it is due on July 15th. And if you would so bless this effort, we would love to have a resolution from the council and the city to support our grant application.
Okay.
Any questions?
What's the total amount of the grant again?
130,000.
130,000.
Is that what the city puts into it, or is that?
There's no financial obligation to the city. The hope would be that the city would provide kind of back-end support with some of the planning and technical stuff with city staff, and it would bolster our application to have your support.
Is these monies designated for certain areas?
Really for the East Cleveland area, from East Inman entering the city limits to kind of the railroad crossing.
Yeah.
Is being eliminated and the bridge is going over up to where the underpass is. It's trying to bring the best plan possible for that area and bring the neighborhood into the spotlight of planning, where sometimes they've been left out of planning efforts. And this grant would help us really put the neighborhood first and ensure that there's a voice there for the best
Okay.
plan possible for residents of East Cleveland.
No problem with running into the underpass anymore.
Right.
Okay.
That would be
All right. Let's
one of the-
make sure we fix the number one problem. That's for sure.
That's right.
Okay. Well.
So that's when you're talking about College Hill,
Yes, ma'am.
the Old Whirlpool area,
Yes, ma'am.
City Field.
Yep.
And will that include Wildwood or not?
In the grant, we primarily identified East Inman Street, and that will be the main focus of this grant. And it may, branch out arterial just a little bit from there, but Wildwood Avenue is not the focus of it. But it kind of does swoop over there where the railroad is coming in, or the bridge is coming in.
Third Street area?
Okay.
So the biggest thing is streetscape and sidewalks and things, they're trying to open it up for downtown, to try to close up the gap, is that what it is?
The name of the grant is the Community Connectors Grant. And what you feel when you're in East Cleveland sometimes is that it's disconnected because of the railroad tracks.
Yes.
And it's planning efforts to make sure that the neighborhood is connected to as many amenities and as many benefits as possible for the downtown area as well. So, the technical parts of that will be, like the actual, bricks and mortar part of that will be born out of the plans and dreams of residents who speak up during this grant. It's a capacity building grant, so there's no, again, bricks and mortar. But it will be the planning that lays a good foundation for the future.
And that's going to do commercial as well as housing?
It could, it very well could, yeah, because that area is a commercial corridor.
Any other questions? Anybody?
Joe, have we rezoned or had consideration on downtown Cleveland? I know there were some things that are being rezoned. Has everything been rezoned in downtown? Or is it still sitting out there as far as commercial versus residential? I know there was,
In the downtown area?
yes, sir.
There are, most of it's, central business district.
Okay.
There are some areas that we've looked at, we've done some rezoning, but then we've looked at, some of the areas, between Broad Street and Key Street that probably the zoning needs to be reviewed because it's a mix of CH, R2, mixed use, and a lot of those. And so that's been an ongoing discussion of some of those, some of that zoning that probably needs to be updated.
Will this grant impact any of that on that
No,
side?
not at all.
So, that was my question. Thank you.
Okay.
We
Any
enjoyed
further?
the ribbon cutting earlier, and just
Yeah.
piggybacking on all that was said there. That investment, has primed the pump for other investment in that area. We just want to make sure that it's most strategic and wise and beneficial to the residents of East Cleveland.
Okay, thank you, Dustin. All right. Joe, city manager, report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor and city council members. Very quickly, want to go over a couple items we had for the city manager report. The first is, thank you so much for attending the ribbon cutting at Mosby. I think that, without being in the hot sun, is I do think it's, there's so much effort all the way from the city council down to Brian Turner and Jonathan Job designing it, to our engineers actually making it work, to our public works people and our parks department for actually doing a lot of the work. It's just really a team effort, and it's just a really great celebration. I think we advanced the ball. I think we made the space a more usable space. From what I've seen in driving by and hanging out, is that you go on the weekend, the park is
Yeah.
overwhelmed with people, and that's a positive thing. And does the council have any other additional comments on Mosby Park, or anything that was not said at our extended ribbon cutting?
There was so many good things said, some of it's worth saying again. We definitely want to thank staff and everybody for what they've done. It's a beautiful facility, and it's unique. It's a unique facility designed for communities, and thanks for your input, Joe. I know we've done a lot of parks in the city of Cleveland, and they all look beautiful. So I'm glad we had a good turnout. A lot of people. So thanks for the effort and everything that's done.
And I think one thing that goes, we did have a community process. We did meet with the neighborhood, and it's just really been a pleasure working with everyone day to day to bring the whole project to fruition. It wasn't the easiest project, especially
Yeah.
trying to get materials and all of those. It kind of fell in that timeline when things were tricky, but we managed. With that being said, if there are no other comments, moving on, want to take a moment and talk about a new initiative that the city has, which is on annexation. There are new things in state law that allow some annexation by referendum, that many communities across the state have actual processes that they go through and invite people to voluntarily want to annex. And we are initiating that today, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But essentially, if there's a property owner that has some development that is outside the city, we're going to essentially advertise or give notice that every year there's a process that a lot of these communities go through to do their annexations in one great big bite. And it sets up for, it's a little bit more efficient, and we'll be talking to the public about that. So if you have any developer or realtor friends or people that that potentially need sewer in the future, certainly have them contact Jonathan Job or myself, and we're glad to talk to them about the feasibility of doing those annexations. We have about, I think, 8 or 9 that are in the queue right now, and this will allow us to be more efficient with a lot of those annexations. Instead of doing one at a time, we can do multiple ones.
Joe, in there new law that's involving annexations to the cities that's been put in place in the last couple of years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Just say that again.
We're talking about the new law that's been put into place.
Yeah, it's annexation by referendum. Is that essentially community or larger tracts of land that are not connected to the city,
Yeah.
that they can petition, and there's a new process that those properties can come in and essentially get sewer access and be members of the community. A lot of communities across the state are using this process, and this is the first. It's about a 20-step process, and this is the first step, is to talk to the council, but notify the public
Yeah.
and the people out there that, you may have a developer or a builder that wants
Yeah.
sewer, and they should contact us, and we can put them into our process.
But I think some people, they think if they're not connected to the city limits, they cannot ask to be annexed.
That's right.
But if there's a road that can be annexed to their property, it's possible to annex their property.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for the more specific question. This is primarily for those properties that aren't necessarily connected to the city, but are not contiguous to the city, but have a reason, because as we know, and many people in the community know, that an annexation actually helps everyone involved. It helps Cleveland Utilities, it helps the developers and the builders get access to sewer, and it certainly helps the county, because they get higher density development that can help with their tax base, and the same thing with the city, as we get that same thing. We have to supply the services to that area, but everyone wins: the development community, the county, Cleveland Utilities, and the city. And we're just looking to facilitate that conversation and talk to our friends at the county and talk to our developer friends and try to make the process more streamlined and get out of it what we need out of it. And there's more information to come on that. This is just the first foray. You may have questions about that, and we'll be in touch.
Okay.
Additional questions on annexation? Still looking at we we had a conversation with our legislators. We're looking at trying to implement some of their suggestions as far as funding. We are, as you've seen on a weekly basis, we have been closing off Inman Street and starting to implement the streetscaping on Inman. First step is obviously getting conduit under the ground because we need to replace the mast arms down there because the technology is 40 years old and they really don't make those units anymore. And so pardon, you know, we're trying to get all that done before school starts. And I think the last one I think was supposed to be this morning and then they delayed it. And I think that, and it's for a good reason. I think Cleveland Utilities wanted to go and take another look at some of their infrastructure in there. So we held off today without doing the cuts today, but we'll schedule them in shortcoming. And probably the last one we do will probably be July 24th, which I think is Church Street.
They did cut, they closed, one of them.
Oh, they did?
They did close one of them, the last one.
Okay. So what did they hold back and not do today?
Church.
Church.
Church is gonna be
Oh,
live.
all right. Thank you. And we do have some designs, and we're missing the mayor and Dr. Estes, and we'll wait for them to come back till the next meeting to really jump into a longer conversation on that. We are looking at additional funding. There's some a lot of options from federal funding with the federal infrastructure bill that Congress passed. And we have some things that we're looking pretty seriously at that would actually, you know, we got the one grant for $30 million. There's another grant that would do some other larger infrastructure improvements, and we're looking at some of those. And we would certainly bring those back to you and get your opinion before we apply for those. But we're working diligently on trying to make that happen. Any questions on the RCE grant or future implications? Yes, sir.
Joe, could we back up to the traffic light improvements? Are we pretty much, when we're upgrading intersections now, using the mast arms as opposed to wires? Or is it still a mixed bag?
The last ones that we've done have all been mast arms, is because, and that was because those, they seem to make sense with those decisions. I don't think that we've taken a definitive hard stand that they all have, there's some locations that type of investment
Sure.
isn't the best, but if it's on a major corridor, more than likely we would make that jump. If it's a secondary corridor with a traffic light, we would probably analyze it and figure it out.
They certainly improve the looks of the community. The
Yeah,
mast
they do.
arms do.
Yeah, that's a fact,
Yeah, and we agree.
yeah.
Okay.
Joe,
and-
do we have a timeline? I know it seems like everything moves slow for us and the general public. But the people I've talked with that's got businesses downtown, they're enthused about what we're doing downtown, about the cuts, about Inman Street, the lighting and all that. But everybody wants to know, do we have a timeline that we're gonna be able to meet?
On Inman Street?
Yes, on Inman Street.
Yes, with this new bridge grant, that has made us take a second and a third look at our timeline. It probably pushes us to moving much faster on doing the Inman corridor. One thing that has happened recently is the state was gonna pave in this fall but they've now pushed that back to next spring. With them pushing that back, we will probably come and ask the council, with a presentation and with some options of just, going and, 'cause if you recall, our previous discussion was to just pave it and put stripes on, out there and to see how it works. Well, with the new $30 million bridge, that there's gonna be a new thoroughfare, one of the questions that has been proposed internally with our staff is, well, do we need to do an intermediary step with that? And should we just go and it's more efficient to do the sidewalks, to do the streetscaping with street trees? And the traffic analysis shows that it works. We all know that there are gonna be times at 7:45 and 5:15 that'll be, we'll have to adjust the traffic to get through there, it'll be tight because it's tight. That's the question that we're looking at from a timeline standpoint is, should we not do the intermediary step? And we're prepared to go and just do the streetscape right now and have all of that done for spring. So that's the timeline that you're asking for, is if the council says yes, we would deliver all the streetscaping, bid that out and have all that corridor 100% completed, which also works well with the Summit project, Cherokee project. And then we save money because then the state on their dime, they come in and pave it and stripe it, and then the new mast arms and everything will be up and will be fully functioning.
Are we gonna ask the state to pay anything on the sidewalks and the scape? It'll all be
No, we
local
have
money?
that funded with some of the money. You guys already put money in there to do that, so it's not a question of funding, it's a question of when you want to.
Okay,
So that's the thing, is do you want to do an intermediary step where you'll have 3 lanes, but still small sidewalks, or just want to go to the wider sidewalks?
Okay.
That's the question that will probably be posed at your next council meeting.
How would that affect the traffic for that amount of time before the new bridge was built? How would that affect that?
Well, the traffic study that was done, it was done as the traffic impact analysis shows that it works even without the bridge or the Third Street. So, you know, when the council, I think, voted to go and try the 3 lanes, but the traffic now shows that there's no question it works. But now that you have this new secondary route with a bridge over that, is there any reason to do an intermediate step? Maybe just do the whole thing and just be done with that. Traffic, you know, people, it'll be tight for the first little bit, but people will figure it out.
And what about in truck traffic? Is that gonna be diverted around? They'll no longer come down inland and try to go into,
Truck traffic doesn't go through there right now anyway.
okay. I noticed the other day that I saw some changes, so, but I mean, there are some people still hitting the bridge. Is it gonna eliminate that as well, or?
You can't fix the ignorance.
I know you can't fix ignorance, but I
You just
mean,
can't do it.
So what, the bridge, if you build the bridge over that, that will likely eliminate that issue.
no, I'm talking about if we go ahead and narrow down in the street and put the trees in
Yeah,
it.
but-
Will that keep, some of the larger trucks, and I'm not talking about big transfer trucks or anything, I'm just talking about some delivery trucks, people pulling trailers, will that kinda keep them from coming down through there? Will they kinda go around, or?
They should be going around right now.
Okay.
And that's the problem is
Yeah.
if they don't, then they hit the overpass. So no, it'd be about the same as it is now, you know, and to be completely, you know, we think if you go down to 3-lane section, we're trying to make it into a downtown corridor that people can go and walk on the streets and feel comfortable walking. We're intentionally trying to slow the traffic down and make it safer. And And some folks that may not want that, they still have the ability to come down right now, and they can go up Linden, and they go to Third Street, and they can go around if they don't want that. Or if they're coming down the bypass, they can go out ATV 40 and around. Because there's options available for a lot of people that don't want to be potentially slowed down intentionally.
I was just hoping that they would kind of eliminate that problem that we have even more.
No, that won't get eliminated until we build the bridge.
Joe, I've seen a lot of motorhomes. They're going up into the mountain to the Ocoee, and several of them have hit that bridge. You know, is there any way, or is that type of traffic going to be rerouted?
Well, they shouldn't be there right now, and most of them don't go there, is that it will work.
Mhm.
If you narrowed it, it wouldn't impact anything different than what you're doing now.
Okay.
And in a lot of ways, what the traffic experts tell you is it just creates a steady stream of north-south traffic, and then you have turn lanes so people get off. Right now, if someone stops in the 4-lane section, then it backs it all the way up until they can make a left-hand turn. But putting turn lanes in gets people out of the flow of traffic, and it keeps things going efficiently through the intersection. And it's a lot safer. A lot of the crashes there are due to people rear-ending people that stop to go left-hand turns, and a lot of those issues.
Okay. So there won't be a east-west corridor from 75. At one time, there was a lot of talk about that they could put an east-west corridor in and down Inman Street. Now, I know we're going to revitalize downtown, so all of that conversation is going away. We're not going to bring traffic downtown from the interstate.
We are, and I'm sorry, I'm bouncing around a little bit. There is a grant out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have a grant that will help in the downtown area. There's another grant, well, let me back up. We've gotten 2 federal grants. We have the RAISE grant, which is going to do and design our exact plan for what we're gonna do in the future, which will include how do you bring people from the interstate in through downtown. So the RAISE grant, which is a federal grant, it will design all of everything from Key Street or Harrison Pike all the way out to the interchange. The second grant we got, federal grant, is this RCE grant, which is the Federal Bridge Grant. And what we're looking to apply for, called the Surface Rural Grant, federal money, a lot of money at the federal government for transportation infrastructure, is that, to answer your question, is, no, we think that you need to be able to bring people through the downtown around, but not necessarily through the middle of Inman Street.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're building another road on Third Street that will be designed to carry that type of traffic, which will leave Inman Street at the heart to be more of a pedestrian downtown type walkway. So nothing has been eliminated, is that we still think that people should be able to get through the downtown, but we're building this new road that will be more efficient to get them from point A to point B.
Okay.
Joe, do we think Third Street will end up being 4-lane?
It'll be 4 or 5,
5? Okay.
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Probably 80 to 100 foot cross section. Wide, what, the cross section, and that's the stuff that we're getting ready to show you, is that if you look at what, one of the better projects that are analogous to this is, in Knoxville, for, Cumberland Avenue, is that that they have the same amount of traffic going through there, but they narrowed it, is that we wanna have larger buildings with large sidewalks, with, you know, your road sections with a median, grass median with trees that go down it, and getting people coming through downtown, and then going around the bridge, and then going through there. But if they wanna get off, they can go and stop. It's much more efficient, but it also sets up a new revitalization opportunity to, for some of those areas.
Okay.
Well, I would encourage any council member, Denise and myself is walking down 5 Points, coming back towards town. They're doing a little construction there, the sidewalks, about 4:30. And I had to get against the wall because of traffic speed coming down through there. It's just not, you need a wider sidewalk something through there. I mean, it doesn't feel safe. And slowing traffic down too by going to 2 lanes, it just, because again, I think that everybody wants to beat the stoplights. And they see a green light there, and they see a green light Parker, they're gonna speed up, and they see the other ones on up there. You know, by the time they get down through there, they may be running 50 or so, but it's just, wider sidewalks, we gotta make it pedestrian friendly if we want the downtown to thrive
Yeah.
and shops to thrive down
And
there.
that's a question that's likely, unless we find a reason to not go in that direction, that probably at our next council meeting, that we will have a presentation and show you exactly what it looks like, to make that decision, to start, do the wide sidewalks and just do it, or do an intermediary step, which then later, if you come back, you have to dig into your new paving, and then you pretty much have to repave it again, so, and there's some nuances there, but that's probably the takeaway, is that decision, we'll have some information, we'll have some individual meetings, and you guys can look at our options.
Any thought about businesses on Emmons Street having a little cafe out front gated? Is that something that's a
They would be
city
able to do that. 'Cause
They
you
would be able to do that?
You would have
Be able to
10-foot
put a little-
sidewalks on each side.
on each side, be able to do that? That would enhance downtown. That, for a shop owner, that'd be a plus.
They could.
Okay. Any further questions? Well, I guess we'll review the 3 o'clock agenda. Yeah.
All right, Vice Mayor and City Council. The first item, we'll have a public hearing for Phyllis Lindenbeck for consideration to rezone 2.52 acres located at Kyle Lane from light industrial to R2. They are doing this for the intention of building a single-family home or an additional single-family home on that property. So that's the purpose of that. The second, item B, a public hearing, is the request by J Home Holdings LLC for consideration of an ordinance to zone about 0.22 acres located at 1350 Wildwood from CH to R2. This was a building that was already been renovated and updated and invested in. Their loaning institution found that the zoning was not consistent with that use, so they're asking us to zone it from CH to R2, which would make it consistent for their thing. So the renovations have already been done. This just allows them to get their loan to be able to do that. Item C, which is a public hearing to hear public comments concerning a request by it's Hokies for a nightclub permit to be located at 918 Sahara Drive. If you recall, about last year, we set up a nightclub permit. And this is the first application that we have gotten for them. Councilwoman McKenzie has asked some questions, and we have your information. I sent it to you as far as what some of the regulations are. I've been told that by getting this permit, it changes nothing at how Hokies is operating right now. It just makes them compliant with their activities past 11 o'clock. This doesn't extend their hours, this doesn't allow them to do anything that they're not doing now, in doing that. And Ms. Marcia had some questions, and we'll get with you between meetings to kind of walk through that and make sure we can address your questions. But the intention is just to get them compliant for these type of activities. And basically what it is be a nightclub playing music after 11 and also serving alcohol, they have there, kicks them into this, and we're just trying to make them compliant so that they can continue to do what they've been doing. On the consent agenda, we have zoning ordinance 4.37, unincorporated county from R2 to low density R2 multifamily. This is, I believe, it does not have an address on there. I think this is the Greenway, the rezoning of the Greenway area, so it's our property. Then you have consent B, which is the zoning ordinance 23-22, which is rezoning 3.76 acres on Free Will Road. This is the Cleveland Utilities, and it'll end up being light industrial for utility services. Final passage is zoning ordinance 23-23. Zoning ordinance was 7.87 acres on Fourth Avenue from unincorporated county to light industrial. This is the substation, the Lane Street substation. And item D is ordinance 23-25, is an ordinance to amend the Cleveland Municipal Code to put a minimum square footage out there. This has already been passed once by the council and adopted by Planning Commission. Item E, 23-65, approving the 2023 communications agreement between the city, Bradley County, and the City of Charleston and the Bradley County Emergency Communications District. If you recall, the council increased the funding for 911 in the last budget. This budget, or this agreement reflects that. 911 board has already approved this unanimously. This would be a 4-year agreement, and then after 4 years, it would renew automatically for 2 years. And happy to address any questions, but either side at any time can get out, so we're not locked into anything. Item F, resolution 23-66, supporting City Fields and their application for the Robert Woods Johnson Foundation Community Connector. City Fields and Dusty Tomey were here, and they already talked to you about that item, and this would be the approval of that support. Item G is authorizing the mayor to sign a change order number 3 with Summers Taylor relating to the LIC North project. So we're all done with the LIC North project. This essentially closes out that project. Remember, the LIC project was in 2 phases. One from the industrial park, which was industrial, which was LIC South, and now we're doing LIC North. It was all part of the one project that was broken into 2 parts. For a lot of reasons, we went through, and this project went over budget, but primarily went over budget because when we first contemplated and approved this, the city was doing our own CEI, which is our inspections. The state has now required us to do them, and that costs us about $400,000 or so, maybe more. So those CEI stuff which were we did the CEI on LIC South. This project, they would not let us do that. We have people certified, they would not let us. So that's one of the reasons why the costs have gone up. That at the end of the day, The overall, overage on this was, about $400,000. It's like $396,000 that we're over. The state, before we got to that number, gave us $400,000. Just said, well, here's $400,000 for a number of reasons that they may have caused some issues, so they helped us with some of those issues. Our agreement with this is that both LIC North and LIC South would each cost $4 million. On LIC North, this project is over, and the agreement says that the state will pay 50%, city will pay 25%, and the county will pay 25%. So, we are going to pay our 25% to the state and the contractor, and we're gonna have a continuing conversation with the county on the other 25, which at the end, it's $197,000 that we'll be asking them to help partner with us on this. Again, it's not that we did anything. Most of that overrun is based on this CEI that we had to hire. And that, if you're asked why is it over, then that's probably the easiest explanation. Any questions on LIC North? There is a contract, there is a written agreement between the state and the city and the county. Item H, resolution 23-68, is approving a pilot agreement for Project Baxter. Certainly Doug Berry is here if anyone has any specific questions on that project. For 23-69, we're amending the authorized position list. It results in just a net zero of positions. Item J is authorizing the mayor to sign a memo of understanding between the Cleveland City Police Department, City of Cleveland Schools, and for the school resource officers. State was very generous, and when we talk about legislators, we should have mentioned this issue. They, along with the governor, of course, that they are giving us probably what amounts to about $750,000.
$75,000
times 9, so it's a little almost 700,000. So that helps, and that's helpful.
Does that have a sunset clause, or does that continue on?
So I've asked Mark that 3 times, and he keeps on telling me it's a continuing thing.
Yeah, there's no sunset on it. It's supposed to be a continuous grant that's paid, but, you know, you got to about that. But, that's the understanding from, what the department said.
So we can hope for that.
We hope. The good news is we already have it in place.
Item K is a motion to approving a nightclub permit for Pokies. This is the one that will talk to anybody in specifics. We have some information for Marcia McKenzie. She has some specific questions on that. Then appoint the library board for Vanessa Hammond, 3-year term to expire on 2026. Item A, the zoning ordinance. This was the issue on Kyle Lane, which was the building a single-family home. Item B, this is for the bank for the renovations that were already done. And item C, this is a zoning ordinance for about 8 acres, zoning from R3 to PUD 45. And this is the Peerless Road Church of God. And I wanted to take a second and that one of the things that was requested here is that they wanted to put up a digital sign. We have a sign ordinance that governs that. We looked at the zoning, and you can't put a digital sign in our zoning. And there were 2 options that they could have put on, meaning that the church could have requested. They could have done a PI zoning, and there was, that they could have made, that would have met the zoning ordinance, or that would have met the sign ordinances. So you don't need to change anything, and it's 100% compliant with the sign ordinance. Or you could go and do a PUD, and that allows the council to put in specific controls over, like, at 10 o'clock, they have to turn it off and then turn it back on in the morning. You can have regulations on the dimming, how fast it flashes, and they were all good or supportive of some of those limitations on that. So the planning commission, I'm not sure, voted not to recommend this. But this is, they could have done this digital sign by just doing a rezoning, and they would have been in full compliance with it. So all we're doing is just facilitating that they have full compliance to do this, just their underlying, you know, a church that is R3, obviously that's not the right zoning district, they just had to do that, and that's all we're fixing right now, is the underlying zoning, and then they would be compliance with the sign ordinance and the zoning ordinance.
Joe, one thing that was mentioned is they would keep the sign at least 30 seconds. It wouldn't be something to be flashing. As cars go by, it would divert their attention, but they will have the sign at least at 30 seconds on one particular reading at a time.
Yeah, it's specifically, the council can specifically set that number. I don't know what it is.
Is that reasonable, 30 seconds?
Yes. Yeah,
Robert
it's
says
supposed
yes.
to stay steady for, a period of time, and that's good.
Okay.
Joe, what does this do with a PUD as the church grows? Can the PUD, is it a living, breathing document? Can it be changed as they go along? I mean, because
if
as
they
growth
wanted to do a
goes,
different kind of ministry, or sometimes,
add-on buildings, or,
if they wanted to do, and it gives them a lot of flexibility,
Okay.
and I think that's a tremendous point, is that it helps in a lot of different facets.
Yeah.
You know, that's a fairly decent sized piece of property. Sometimes they want to put up, units for, people to live in, maybe it's their staff, is that's all they would have to do is amend that, and you can fix and do many of those different, you know, this also gives the council and the church to work on buffers and barriers and make sure that the church is protected from the neighbors, and also making sure that the neighbors are protected from any activities that are going there. It's really a great tool to tailor fit it to what the needs are now and in the future.
And the church at the present time is about 3.5 acres, right?
It actually sits on an 8 acres.
8 acres?
yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
It
I
backs
know
up.
they have a triplex on that property,
That's right.
but I didn't realize it was that large.
It is.
Okay.
Backs up to Lakewood, on Free Will, is it?
This is Peerless.
Peerless.
Peerless, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is right up Raider Drive. You
Okay.
Go through their front,
All right.
door. I think someone actually did that.
Yeah.
I think they blew through the intersection and hit their sanctuary.
That's right.
Drop the service.
Anyway, I'm not sure how we got on that, but, any more questions on that? With that, Mr. Vice Mayor, I am talked out.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you, Joe. Next on our agenda, the report of council members. Councilman Webb,
Not right now, sir.
okay. Vice Mayor Johnson, not right now. Councilwoman McKenzie,
No, sir.
Councilman Estes, Council Cassada,
Yes, Mayor, one thing, I just want to recognize our County Commissioner, Tommy Leffert, back there, so I appreciate you coming in. And if you want to get with us after the meeting, a little bit about that resolution you talked about, we can talk about it a little bit more, okay?
Okay. Councilman May?
I'll wait.
That it? Councilman Hughes? Okay. All right, nothing further. Nobody have anything to add, we will adjourn until 3 o'clock.
Are you gonna be at the meeting?